Chapter 781. Now, who is going first? Me. Gianna approached the strength tester machine confidently. The strength tester machine was made from metal. It had a flexible punching pad right in the middle designed to absorb and measure the force of the strike. Upon delivering a punch, the display screen would present the amount of strength. Guys, I'll try it out for you first. Gianna took a deep breath before delivering a powerful punch, smashing the punching pad. With a heavy thud, the punching pad slammed into the tester machine. At the same time, the red digits on the display screen fluctuated rapidly and settled at 1250. No way. A woman punched 1,250 pounds of force. That's stronger than me. She's impressive at hitting those numbers without internal energy. Whispers and murmurs spread among the crowd, expressing their surprise. It was impressive to achieve those numbers as a young lady not older than 18. See that? This is what I am capable of. Gianna chuckled proudly. She even waved a fist at Dustin and his group in arrogance and contempt. She dares show off with such measly strength. How shameless of her. Georgia remarked coldly, "What did you just say?" Gianna was annoyed and challenged, "If you're not satisfied, let's compete." Georgia crossed her arms and said disdainfully, "I'm not interested in competing with a weakling like you." You. Gianna was infuriated. Georgia's arrogance made her feel humiliated. You think Gianna lacks strength? Well, let me show you real strength. Just then, Desmond stepped forward. He warmed up his muscles and positioned himself before the tester machine. With a slow lift of his fist, he gathered his strength to its peak before delivering a powerful punch. The punching pad slammed down forcefully. The red digits on the display screen fluctuated rapidly before finally stopping at 5,267. The crowd erupted in chaos at the scene. What the hell? 5,000 pounds. Am I seeing it right? Damn it. I exhausted myself to barely reach 800. This guy just came and hit 5,000. That's terrifying. So these are Boulder Thorn's formidable fighters. They truly live up to their name. Staring at that striking red number, the crowd was stunned and speechless. It was already impressive for an ordinary martial artist to generate a force of 1,000 pounds. A force of 5,000 pounds was something they wouldn't even dare to imagine. All hail, Desmond. Unlike the crowd, the Steeljaws Fellowship disciples were cheering and proud of the achievement. Hey, did you see that? That's a punch with 5,000 pounds of force. That's what true strength looks like. Gianna lifted her head arrogantly and taunted, "You guys were so arrogant just now, so why the silence now? Go ahead and brag some more, you cowards. Is 5,000 pounds supposed to be impressive? That's normal," Dustin remarked causally. Normal. Gianna was initially taken aback, but then she burst into laughter. Hey. Are you out of your mind? You're saying 5,000 pounds of force is normal. How could you shamelessly boast like that? You have a sharp tongue. If you're capable, why don't you show us a 5,000-pound punch yourself? That's right. You're good at exaggerating when your skills don't seem that impressive. If you can punch 5,000 pounds of force without using internal energy, I'll pull down my pants in public. The crowd snorted and looked at him as if he were a fool. Despite their best efforts, they could only manage a few hundred or a couple thousand at most. Therefore, striking a punch of 5,000 pounds was rare. Young man, I advise you to not be arrogant. 5,000 pounds of force relying on only raw strength are your limits, the Martial Arts Alliance staff said. He had seen many who had high ambitions but no skills. They only knew how difficult it was to achieve that number once they tried it themselves. How many pounds did you say one has to hit to be able to advance immediately? Dustin asked. Over 10,000 pounds, but Dustin had already punched the target before the staff could finish his sentence. An explosion rang out, causing the strength tester machine to wobble. The red numbers on the display screen began to fluctuate rapidly. 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000. The numbers climbed up rapidly. In a blink of an eye, it was over 5,000. But it kept on increasing with no show of stopping. A few seconds later, the numbers finally stopped at 10,001. That was over 10,000 pounds. For a moment, the crowd was left dumbfounded. Chapter 782. The crowd was silent as they stared at the red number. Looks of astonishment replaced the smiles on their faces. No one expected Dustin to have such terrifying strength. His punch was over 10,000 pounds of force. It was incredible. Fuck. Who is this guy? How can he be so strong? And I thought 5,000 pounds was the limit. This guy broke through 10,000. Damn it. He's a freaking monster. The martial artists present began discussing among themselves and expressed their surprise. The Steeljaws Fellowship disciples were in shock, unable to believe it. Desmond had exerted his full strength only to achieve 5,000 pounds of force, while Dustin easily surpassed 10,000 pounds of force. Dustin completely crushed them with that display of strength. It was humiliating. How was that possible? How could this skinny guy have such incredible strength? Did he use internal energy? Gianna questioned. If he used internal energy, the machine would have shown an invalid result. So that punch he threw was raw strength, someone explained. Although they didn't want to admit it, Dustin was strong. He had far surpassed their expectations. 10,001 pounds. That number should get me qualified for the next round, right? In comparison to the crowd's reaction, Dustin appeared calm. It was as if he had done something ordinary. Huh. Oh. Right. You have advanced directly to the next round. After a momentary daze, the staff nodded. He had looked at Dustin in contempt, but it was now replaced with awe. If Dustin's punch was 10,000 pounds of force, he couldn't imagine if it was with internal energy. Hey, Chubbs, did you see that? Now that's strength. What you both did was child's play. Georgia crossed her arms with a smirk in contempt. Gianna was infuriated at the jab but could only stay silent. Although strength didn't represent their ability, they still won this round. Hey, don't get arrogant. I haven't even made my move yet. At that moment, Devon stepped forward. He was burly and looked strong with muscles that resembled rocks. That's right. We can still win with Devon around. Gianna's eyes lit up immediately. She was excited. Devon had much stronger raw strength than Desmond. Devon is naturally strong. Not being able to use internal energy will show you how strong his raw strength is. Desmond was confident. That's right. Devon is the true underdog. The others nodded in agreement. Each of them had their own strengths and talents. They were either fast, strong, with great defense, immense internal energy, or good at swordsmanship. Among them, Devon undoubtedly possessed the greatest strength. You think hitting 10,000 pounds of strength is impressive, brat? Let me tell you the truth. I achieved that 3 years ago. With a cold gaze, Devon turned to Dustin and laughed at him. Today, I'll show you what strength truly is. Keep your eyes wide open. As he spoke, he approached the strength tester machine and deeply breathed. He then positioned his fist and began to gather his strength slowly. When he stretched his arm as far as he could, he used his foot to push off and delivered a strong punch onto the punching pad hard. A resounding explosion shook the entire tester machine. The red digits on the display screen started to fluctuate and ascend. The numbers surpassed the 10,000 mark without any signs of slowing down. Finally, the number settled at an impressive 14,387. That was over 4,000 pounds higher than Dustin's results earlier. What the fuck? Is he for real? 14,000. He's a fucking monster. Damn it. This guy broke the record. That's ridiculous. Chapter 783. After a short silence, the room erupted in cheers. Everyone looked at the numbers displayed on the screen with wide eyes. They were in disbelief. Dustin's 10,000 pound record was already terrifying. He could get promoted to the next level with that. Who would have thought that another more frightening monster would show up? £14,000 completely replaced the previous record. It was simply horrifying. Ha ha ha. Devon is just impressive. Gianna burst out laughing and jumped around in joy. That's God-given talent. The other disciples were also overjoyed. They could also share some of this glory thanks to Devon's achievement. You're insane. You broke the record with just one punch. The Martial Arts Alliance staff's wide eyes were filled with admiration. HMPH, that was nothing. I was just warming up. Now I'm getting serious. Devon clenched his fists, stretching his neck from side to side. Then, he gestured for the crowd to make way for him. He exhaled. Then, he pulled his fist back before launching it directly on the target. There was a loud thud. The machine trembled. At the same time, the red numbers on the screen began to surge again. Finally, it stopped at 15,464. Over £15,000. Fuck. He broke the record again. It shot up another £1,000. £15,000 with just one punch. Who can even top that? They're both human, so how can the gap be so wide? Devon's second punch shocked everyone once more. He'd broken his own record. No one else could have done that. Well, punk, do you admit defeat? Devon turned to look at Dustin with a scornful smile. What was £10,000? He'd managed to reach £15,000. Hey, you. Now you know how awesome Devon is, don't you? He broke the record with just a casual punch. What about you? Gianna taunted arrogantly. Hey, say something. Why are you staying silent? Don't back down now. If you have the guts, try again. Punk, if you don't have what it takes, tuck your tail between your legs and walk away. Next time you see me, turn the other way, get it? Devon said gloatingly. He was confident that he had defeated Dustin. Dustin didn't reply to their taunts. He walked over to the strength tester machine and raised his fist again. Hey, it seems like you haven't given up. Do you want to go again? Do you think you can break my record? How funny. Devon said with a disdainful expression. Everyone, look. This stupid fool is going to embarrass himself. Gianna laughed mockingly. Hey, he's just asking to be humiliated. The other disciples chuckled along. The martial artists in the area also shook their heads, looking at Dustin like a fool. Can anyone even top the record of £15,000 in strength? Under everyone's watchful gaze, Dustin raised his fist and threw a forceful punch toward the target. There was a loud noise. The strength tester machine, made of solid metal, was punched over 30 feet away. It swayed as though there was an earthquake. Even the reinforced concrete base beneath it was yanked straight from the ground, leaving a deep crater in its original spot. The machine wreaked destruction along its path, breaking many pieces of equipment along the way. Finally, it hit a thick wall at the back and stopped. The red number on the display screen was increasing rapidly. It went from 10,000 to 20,000, 30,000, 40,000, 80, 90, and finally, it stopped at 100,000. When it hit the limit of 100,000, the numbers were still blinking like crazy. Finally, there was a boom, and the screen exploded. Sparks flew, and black smoke filled the air. In an instant, the entire room fell deathly silent. Chapter 784. Everyone was stunned as they watched the strength tester machine fly over 30 feet away. They were rooted to the spot and didn't react for half a minute. Their eyes were as wide as saucers. Their mouths opened wide in disbelief that an egg could fit in there. They never expected that something like this could even happen. The entire strength tester machine broke down from just a punch. Was he even fucking human? My eyes aren't playing tricks on me, right? He sent the strength tester machine flying. What the fuck? Where did the monster come from? This is completely out of this world. Nothing like this has ever happened before. After a short silence, the crowd whispered among themselves. They all looked at Dustin like they had seen a ghost. Their shock was written all over their faces. It wouldn't have been such a big deal if Dustin had scored higher. Devon would just grit his teeth and accept it. But now, Dustin destroyed the machine with his fist. How could he accept that? That's impossible. That's completely impossible. How can he be stronger than Devon? Gianna shook her head frantically. She couldn't believe her eyes. Even with his God-given talent, Devon had only scored 15,000. Dustin was so skinny. How was he this strong? Was his score too much for the machine to calculate? The other disciples looked at each other dumbfounded. If they weren't wrong, after Dustin's punch sent the machine a distance away, the number on display had jumped to 100,000. Then, it began to blink wildly. Finally, it blew up when it couldn't handle it anymore. If the display wasn't wrong, that meant that the force of Dustin's punch earlier had reached 100,000 pounds. At the thought of that, chills ran down their spines. That result was out of this world. Dustin paid no mind to everyone else's surprise. Instead, he turned to the staff of the Martial Arts Alliance. I guess my punch broke the record, right? Huh. Oh. Why yes, of course. The staff paused for a moment before nodding frantically. He couldn't imagine what would happen if that punch had hit him instead. Do I need to pay for breaking the machine? Dustin asked. No need. The staff shook his head. That's a relief. Thanks. Dustin let out a sigh. Just now, he didn't control his strength and had gone overboard. If he had known this would happen, he would have gone easier. That's impossible. It must be fake. Devon could not accept what had happened. He said, how can someone have such strong physical strength? You must have used internal energy. Exactly. How can an ordinary person have so much physical strength? You must have cheated. Earlier. Gianna added. Cheated. The others looked at each other. Suddenly, they felt doubtful. Everything had happened so quickly that they couldn't see what had happened clearly. Everyone, think about it. One would need at least 100,000 pounds of force to break the machine. That's not possible to achieve with just physical strength alone. I'm sure he used internal energy. Devon said matter-of-factly. At this, a few people nodded. That's right. It's impossible to have so much strength without using internal energy. This bastard could have cheated. Fuck. No wonder he was so impressive. He'd secretly used internal energy. How pathetic. Just to show off, he even threw away his dignity. Screw you. As they sneered, they began to switch sides. Compared to Dustin's behavior, Devon's explanation was more believable. After all, they knew that nobody had ever broken the machine. So, they would choose to doubt Dustin instead. Thus, the surprise and admiration from earlier quickly turned into scorn and contempt. Punk, you don't have anything to say for yourself. I've exposed the truth, haven't I? HMPH, you've bitten off more than you can chew for trying to challenge me. Devon said with a smirk. He acted arrogant as if he'd gotten something to hold over Dustin's head. Moron, Dustin uttered indifferently. Sir, this person cheated and falsified results. If it were up to me, I'd invalidate his assessment results. Devon demanded righteously. Chapter 785. Well, the staff was in a dilemma. Since the machine was already broken, they couldn't verify whether he had cheated. Of course, they could not just invalidate the results. Not to mention, Dustin's first punch had reached 10,000 pounds. He could already get promoted with that. Thus, whether he cheated during the second punch was unimportant. After thinking for a moment, the Martial Arts Alliance staff finally decided. I'll investigate this thoroughly, but there will be no changes to the promotion target. Please proceed with the next test. HMPH, you got lucky. Although Devon was unhappy, he knew he couldn't do anything to Dustin without evidence. You cheated in the first test. Let's see how you pass the second one, Gianna said unkindly. Let's move on to the second test. We'll find out whether he cheated or not. Desmond gestured for the others to follow him to the next test venue. The second test was called the agility test. The candidates had to cross a row of stilts of uneven heights to get to the other side. Some stilts were solid and could be stepped on, while others were fake. Some of them would retract when touched. If one wasn't careful, they could fall. But the difficult part was that hidden weapons such as arrows, boomerangs, and needles would shoot out as they made their way across. If they get hit by these hidden weapons, they would be eliminated. So, this truly tested the participants' agility and reaction. Not only did they have to be careful of their footing, but they also had to avoid getting hit by hidden weapons. Since the test began in the morning, no one had passed yet. That was how difficult it was. Disciples, allow me to be the first to try. Gianna stepped forward and walked to the starting line. She took a deep breath and jumped onto the first stilt. Ring. The bell rang, and the test officially began. Gianna's footsteps were as light as feathers as she began to hop from stilt to stilt. However, a few steps later, she was shot by an arrow and fell onto the ground. Everyone burst out laughing. Fortunately, the arrowhead had been removed, so she wasn't hurt. What are you laughing at? Shut up. Gianna was furious from shame. She shot a menacing gaze at them, and they were so frightened that they stopped laughing, except for Dustin. Gianna, allow us to try. Several other disciples of the Steeljaws Fellowship jumped onto the stilts. Unfortunately, it didn't end well for them either. Not even halfway through, they all fell. Some were shot by hidden weapons. Others felt when the stilt they stepped on retracted. Over half the Steeljaws Fellowship disciples were eliminated in just half an hour. HMPH, these are the elites of Boulderthon. They can't even make it across a row of stilts. How embarrassing. Georgia said out of the blue. As soon as she said that, the faces of all the disciples from the Steeljaws Fellowship turned dark. Shut your mouth. Do you know how hard this is? It's always the one who's standing by and doing nothing that has the most to say. Gianna shouted. If you don't have what it takes, you simply don't. You don't need to come up with excuses, Georgia said with a snort. You. Gianna gritted her teeth angrily. Thomas, people are looking down on Boulderthon. It's time for you to step in. Desmond narrowed his eyes. Thomas, you're the most agile among us. You must show them everything you've got and prove them wrong. Devon said seriously. No problem. Now, watch me show you how it's done. Thomas laughed with confidence. He jumped lightly on his feet as he got ready. Then, he leaped into the air. After making a grand somersault in the air, he landed stably on the stilts. Nice. Everyone perked up at that. Finally, it was the real expert's turn. Chapter 786. After Thomas stood on the stilts, he suddenly turned his head to look at Dustin. Punk, your biggest mistake is looking down on Boulderton. I know you're powerful, but you are nothing compared to me when it comes to agility. Open your eyes and watch. I'll show you what being as agile as a hare means. Thomas raised his head proudly. When it came to strength, he was nowhere near Devon. However, no one could compete with him when it came to agility. Ready, set, go. The bell rang, and Thomas immediately moved. Like a dragonfly skimming the water's surface, he hopped on the stills lightly. Not to mention, he was swift. They could barely see his silhouette as he moved like a shadow. They couldn't follow his movements. Whoosh. Suddenly, hidden weapons shot out at him, one after another. Some came from the side, while others sneaked up on him from behind. Yet, as if he had eyes on the back of his head, Thomas dodged all the weapons. He switched between moving slowly and quickly, jumping high, and bending down low. The first wave of concealed weapons all missed Thomas. Nice one, Thomas. Gianna cried, clapping. It was amazing that he could make it through the first wave. After all, everyone else failed at that point. As expected of Thomas. His agility is the best of the best. Not only was everyone shocked, but they were also filled with admiration. A martial artist's power was determined by strength, speed, agility, internal energy, technique, battle experience, and more. Among them, agility was the most important because it could increase combat power. For example, although Devon had great physical strength, it would be useless if Thomas was too quick for him to land a hit. He would just end up tiring himself from chasing after Thomas. It was not an exaggeration to say that if someone had great agility, they could do well in the martial arts world, even if they lacked power. On the stilts, Thomas was still hopping from left to right. His figure looked as light as a feather. Even if the stilt beneath his feet shortened, he could readjust his posture and regain his balance. Whoosh! Suddenly, the second wave of hidden weapons shot out. This time, the hidden weapons had increased and were even faster. It would be difficult to dodge all of it. Nonetheless, Thomas managed to avoid all the attacks thanks to his incredible agility. After the second wave, the third wave quickly followed. The hidden weapons had increased twofold and had gotten even quicker. Chills ran down everyone's spines as they saw numerous hidden weapons drop from above. All of the Steeljaw Fellowship disciples were nervous. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The weapons fell from above. Thomas's movements increased in speed. He leaped and hopped to avoid the glinting hidden weapons. People were getting dizzy watching him. After much hardship and difficulty, he managed to dodge all hidden weapons. Finally, he successfully made it to the end. When his foot reached the ground, applause broke out. Amazing agility. Thomas, you did a great job. You were awesome. What a show. I couldn't take my eyes off him. Everyone praised him non-stop. All the martial artists before him couldn't even handle the first wave. Some of them lost their footing and fell as soon as they started. So, everyone was in awe of Thomas's amazing agility. He had cleared all the obstacles and easily avoided all hidden weapons. Congratulations, you passed. Your time was 58 seconds, the Martial Arts Alliance staff said. Thomas is as amazing as we thought. He completed the test in under a minute. Chapter 787. Everyone gave him a thumbs up, acknowledging his achievement. How was that? Do you acknowledge my skills now? Thomas turned around and taunted Dustin. Now, do you know what agility is? You'd better learn a thing or two from me. Punk, are you scared now? Who else can finish the test in less than a minute? Devon said pridefully. That's right. When it comes to agility, no one here would dare claim to be better than Thomas. Gianna boasted. The two of them chimed in one after another, using Thomas's glory to act like bullies. Dustin was speechless. He took such a long time to cross these stilts. What's there to be proud of? All he did was dodge a few waves of hidden weapons. How arrogant. From your tone, it seems you won't acknowledge Thomas's success. Come on then, if you have what it takes, why don't you try? I want to see what you can do. Devon mocked. HMPH, you sure know how to talk big. Then get up there. Why are you hiding at the back? You're just like a turtle hiding in its shell. Gianna said sarcastically. She simply didn't believe that anyone was more agile than Thomas. What a bunch of ignorant idiots. Dustin shook his head. He was too lazy to respond to them. Instead, he went up on the stilts. Punk, if you can even make it past the first wave, that's already impressive in my books. Devon looked like he was anticipating an exciting show. Devon, aren't you overestimating him? If he can even hold out for 3 seconds, Before Gianna could finish speaking, the bell rang. Immediately, Dustin moved. A silhouette suddenly flashed past. Dustin was so quick that the crowd didn't even have time to react. When the silhouette disappeared, everyone was stunned to see Dustin standing at the finishing line. Throughout the entire round, not a single hidden weapon shot out. Dustin was just so quick that the machine didn't detect him. To make things worse, the chime of the bell still echoed in the air. What everyone was dumbfounded. The crowd couldn't believe their eyes. How the hell did he just fly over? Was he human? Was that even possible? Can a human be that quick? They must have seen wrong. Several people were rubbing their eyes. They were beginning to suspect that their eyes were playing tricks on them. However, the outcome remained the same regardless of how much they rubbed their eyes. Dustin had indeed made it across the stilts. He had completed the second test at a speed that exceeded most humans and in a shocking manner. How was that? I passed, right? Dustin asked indifferently. The Martial Arts Alliance staff swallowed. He even stuttered as he said, You passed, your time was 2 seconds. 2 seconds. The result caused an uproar. Even with his exceptional agility, Thomas of the Steeljaws Fellowship took 58 seconds to complete the test. Yet, this bastard in front of him had only used 2 seconds. It was ridiculous. It was one thing to be strong, but he was also terrifyingly fast. Was he even fucking human? How could he be so quick? What level of agility is this? Did he travel at the speed of light? This is scary. I've never seen a monster like him before. Everyone was stunned and frightened. Even Devon, who had boasted arrogantly before, didn't dare say another word. Thomas had just suffered a blow to his pride. He stood there, rooted to the spot. Chapter 788. That's impossible. How on earth did you do that? Gianna stuttered, utterly shocked. She didn't have time to process everything since it happened too quickly. Are you going to accuse me of cheating again? Dustin retorted. Gianna didn't know what to say. Earlier, Dustin might have cheated by using internal energy. But using internal energy was allowed in the agility test. Anyone who safely got through the row of stilts naturally passed. There was no way she could accuse him of cheating anymore. Still, she couldn't accept it. HMPH. So what if he's fast? He only passed because he used underhanded tricks. Desmond grumbled dismissively. The internal energy test is up next. I doubt you'll pass. He's right. Internal energy determines a martial artist's strength. No matter how fast you are, you're useless if your internal energy is weak. Gianna echoed stubbornly. Hey, kid. I dare you to compete with Desmond and see who has stronger internal energy. The winner gets to call the shots. Devon taunted. They were all betting on Desmond now. After all, as a strong divine-level martial artist, he was the strongest among them. They were sure that he would win when it came to internal energy. I guess I'll entertain you guys, Dustin smiled. If it was an internal energy test, he might as well enjoy himself. Fine. Follow me. Demon shouted and led everyone to the location of the third test. The setup was simple. A stone platform in the center held a huge, beautiful, pure white crystal ball. How do we use this, sir? Gianna asked after studying the crystal ball. The rules are simple. Place your hand on the crystal ball and channel your internal energy into it. The crystal's color will gradually change. The passing color is black. Silver color means distinction. Those who turn golden will advance to the next level, the Alliance staff explained. All right. I'll give it a shot. Gianna exclaimed excitedly. She put one hand on the crystal ball and channeled her internal energy. Soon, the milky crystal began to turn black. However, the ball stopped changing colors when it was only half black. Gianna had nearly used up her internal energy, and sweat collected on her forehead. No matter how much she tried, the crystal ball refused to turn black completely. In other words, she didn't have enough internal energy to pass the test. Let me try. Others tried their luck after her. However, most were also unable to turn the crystal ball black. Only a few talented individuals managed to turn the ball black and some into silver. You're up, Desmond. Everyone's attention was now on Desmond. He was the only one who could restore Boulderthorn to its former glory. Move out of my way. Desmond gestured for them to move aside and went forward. He placed his hand on the ball. Immediately, divine aura began flowing into the crystal ball. There was a hum as the ball began to vibrate, and the crystal quickly turned black before turning silver. After the crystal ball turned fully silver, streaks of gold began appearing. The Steeljaws Fellowship disciples were excited at the sight, and their eyes twinkled eagerly. Desmond was already incredible since he could turn the crystal ball silver. But if he managed to turn it golden, he'd outshine everyone else and could advance to the next level. Chapter 789. Come on. You can do it. Many people began to cheer for Desmond. Nearly half of the crystal ball had turned golden. He needed to hold out a little longer, and the crystal would turn fully golden. Ah! Desmond gritted his teeth and continued channeling his internal energy into the crystal ball. His strength was draining fast. His face beaded with sweat. Seconds later, the crystal ball hummed as it turned fully golden. Desmond collapsed onto the ground. He was relieved and exhausted. Hooray! He did it. Good job, Desmond. Everyone cheered excitedly. You sure are strong. Well, congratulations. You get to advance to the next level. The Alliance staff praised with a smile. Few people could turn the crystal ball gold in one shot. What now, punk? Do you accept the outcome yet? Devon sneered. Did you see that? That's how powerful Desmond is. He easily surpassed the limit and advanced to the next level. Can someone like you do that? Gianna gloated. What's the point of being fast when internal energy is more important for a martial artist? You should understand how different we are now, right? Desmond clasped his hands behind his back haughtily and snorted. Although he was drained, he still needed to put on a front. Different. Dustin was amused. I haven't even started yet. What are you bragging about? Desmond scoffed. Turning the crystal ball golden is the best someone can do. Do you still think you can beat me? We won't know unless we try. Dustin placed his hand on the crystal ball. What a fool. Why does he even bother acting? He'll just embarrass himself. The rest of the people smirked. But their smug smiles quickly disappeared. A low hum rang out as Dustin channeled his internal energy into the crystal ball. Instantly, the entire ball turned black. Soon, it turned silver, then gold. It only took him a few seconds to change the crystal ball from white to gold. The crowd was even more shocked to see how relaxed Dustin seemed. It was a stark comparison to Desmond, who had been sweating buckets by the time the crystal ball turned gold. Just then, the crystal ball began to vibrate again. A red streak began to appear amidst the gold. Like blood, it quickly spread throughout the ball, turning the entire thing red. It was obvious that Dustin was much stronger than average. It turned red. How is this possible? The Alliance staff was astonished. Others might not understand this, but he did. Only a semi-grandmaster and beyond could turn the crystal ball red. Dustin must be insanely talented to reach the level of a semi-grandmaster despite being in his 20s. The red crystal ball exploded before the worker could get over the shock. It seemed to have reached its limit. The worker was dumbfounded by the sight. Chapter 790. Everyone was stunned when the crystal ball shattered into pieces. Their smiles disappeared and were replaced by looks of dismay and astonishment. Everyone had assumed Desmond would win since he had turned the crystal ball golden. They never imagined that beyond turning golden, it could turn red. What shocked them more was that Dustin had channeled so much excess internal energy after turning the crystal ball red that it exploded. Just how much internal energy did he have to do that? Everyone was speechless. Desmond, who had been full of confidence, was also shaken. He didn't expect his internal energy, which he had been so proud of, to be so weak compared to Dustin. Is this considered cheating? Dustin smiled mockingly. The crowd was at a loss for words. They weren't blind. They had all seen how Dustin had easily passed all 3 tests. It was one thing to excel in one category, but Dustin had performed outstandingly in all 3 tests, which meant that he was powerful. In fact, he was far stronger than all of them. So they had no choice but to submit to him. I guess Boulder Thorn fighters aren't that impressive, are they? They sure know how to boast, but look at how badly they lost. Georgia chirped, dishing back the taunts they received earlier. You. Gianna was pissed but couldn't say anything back. She didn't want to admit it, but they had lost terribly after the last 3 tests. Don't get ahead of yourself. It's not over yet. Desmond spat. Not over yet. Really? Georgia was amused. The 4th test is the pressure test. It measures one's ability to withstand pressure. We'll let this round's results determine the winner. Desmond retorted. Haven't you embarrassed yourself enough? Georgia smirked. Cut the crap. Do you have the balls to accept my challenge? Desmond shouted. Instead of replying, Georgia turned to look at Dustin since he was the one who should decide. She could only help him retort insults. Why wouldn't I? I'll beat you guys fair and square, Dustin replied calmly. Fine. Follow me, then. Desmond yelled, leading everyone to where the 4th test was held. The setup was a closed space that resembled an escalator. But a window in the front allowed others to see what was happening inside. Once a person entered the space, they would feel pressure pushing down on them. They would have to form a defense against the pressure. Desmond, this guy is quite strong. Do you think we will win? Gianna whispered. She had lost confidence after losing the last 3 tests. She's right. Why don't we surrender now? We'll embarrass ourselves if we lose again. Devon supported Gianna. He still had not gotten over Dustin and performance earlier. What are you guys so afraid of? There's no way this guy has no weakness.